Welcome to Heart Over Gold, the channel where love, kindness, and humanity shine brighter than any fortune. In today's story, Sarah had always trusted the two people closest to her husband, David, and her longtime friend, Margaret. But one chilly autumn evening, as she walked with her little boy Leo, a few overheard words shattered her world. In that moment, Sarah discovered a betrayal so deep it came from both the man she shared her life with and the friend she once called family. Heartbroken yet determined, she realized this was not the end of her story, but the beginning of her strength. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, and keep up with our latest stories. The autumn leaves crunched softly beneath my shoes as I froze outside my mother's kitchen window. My son, Leo, only 11, gripped my hand so tightly it nearly hurt. Yet that pressure was nothing compared to the pain twisting inside my chest as I listened to the two people I trusted above all others unravel everything I believed about love, loyalty, and family. She's broken, Margaret. Always crying, always needy. I can't take it anymore. David's voice, my husband, cut through the glass like a blade. Then my mother's laugh rang out, sharp and cruel. I told you not to marry her. I warned you she was too weak for a man like you, too damaged. Each word landed like a physical blow. My knees nearly buckled. Leo looked up at me with wide, worried eyes, sensing that something terrible was unfolding, though he couldn't fully grasp it. I pressed a finger to my lips, silently begging him to stay quiet, even as my world shattered. The insurance money from her father's death was worth it for a while. David went on, his tone casual, as though he were discussing the weather. But now it's nearly gone. I'm tired of pretending to be the loving husband to someone so pathetic. The room spun. The insurance money. The money I thought was being saved for Leo's future, for his college, for our security. It was gone. He had used me all along. What's your plan? Margaret asked, a disturbing thrill in her voice. I'll leave her. Take the rest. She's too weak to fight back. She'll just cry and accept it, like always. And in that moment, something inside me went silent. The hopeful part of me, the one that still believed in love and family, died. But from its ashes, something new was born. Something sharper. Something ready to ensure David and my mother. Learned what happens when you mistake strength for weakness. I pulled Leo away from the window. My mind already moving, already plotting. They believed I was broken. They thought I'd accept their betrayal. But soon they'd discover how wrong they truly were. 3 months earlier, life had seemed nearly perfect, at least, as perfect as it could be for someone like me. My name is Sarah. I'm 32, and for most of my life, I believed I didn't deserve good things. That morning had started like any other. I woke in the cozy 3-bedroom home on Maplewood Lane that David and I had bought when Leo was just 2 years old. House I imagined we'd grow old in. David was already dressed in his crisp blue uniform, ready to head out for work at his construction company. Everyone in Clearwater Creek admired him. The kind of man others wanted to befriend, the kind of man women whispered about, and still, I never understood why he chose me. Morning, beautiful, he said, pressing a kiss to my forehead as I shuffled into the kitchen, still in my robe. My heart fluttered. 12 years together, and still his simple gestures warmed me. Is Leo up yet? I asked, smiling as I poured coffee. Still asleep. I'll wake him. Big day today, the Martinez renovation. Might be late tonight. I nodded, used to his long hours. Construction could be unpredictable. when I mentioned that Margaret wanted us to visit that weekend. I noticed a flicker in his expression, something sharp in his eyes, but it disappeared before I could dwell on it. Then Leo came bounding in, hair sticking up in every direction. At 11, he was lanky, all elbows and knees, and always in a rush. "Morning, Mom. Morning, Dad." He grabbed toast, earning a laugh from me and a gentle ruffle from David. This David and Leo was my whole world. Without them, I was nothing. Or so I thought. That day, I went to my part-time job at the library, a place I cherished for its quiet peace and the escape it offered. Books had always been my safe haven from Margaret's constant criticism. The morning was routine, until I overheard Carol, one of my co-workers, speaking. "I saw David at the cafe yesterday with Margaret. They looked awfully cozy." The words froze me. My mother and my husband. Together, I tried to dismiss it, convincing myself it was innocent. But doubt had planted itself in me. That evening, David came home late. He looked tired, his clothes dusty, or so he claimed. But when I glanced at his truck, it was spotless. Not a trace of dirt or construction. That night, while he slept, unease kept me awake over the following weeks. I noticed more signs: David guarding his phone, my mother knowing details she shouldn't, whispers in town. It all built until that day when Leo and I stopped by Margaret's house unexpectedly, only to see David's truck outside. And then, at that window, everything came crashing down. They thought I was weak. They thought I would collapse. But instead, I began to plan. Because they had underestimated the one thing more dangerous than betrayal: a woman with nothing left to lose. My next stop was the library, but not for work. I needed to use the computers for research that couldn't be traced back to my home computer. I spent hours learning about divorce law in our state, about the division of assets and child custody, about what happens when one spouse can prove the other has been hiding money. But more importantly, I learned about a different kind of law, the kind that deals with fraud, embezzlement, and theft. Taking money from accounts without permission, even between spouses, was still theft if you could prove the money had been obtained under false pretenses. And I could prove that when I picked Lee up from school, I had the beginnings of a plan. Not just to get my money back, but to make sure David and my mother paid for what they had done to me. But I had to be smart about it. They thought I was weak and emotional. That was going to be my biggest advantage. "How was school today?" I asked Leo as we drove home. "Good. We're learning about the Revolutionary War in history class. Did you know sometimes the colonists would pretend to be loyal to the British while they were actually planning to fight them out of the mouths of babes?" "That's very interesting, honey. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to let your enemies think they've already won." That night, I cooked David's favorite dinner, beef stew with potatoes and carrots. I wore the red dress he had complimented on for our anniversary. I smiled and laughed at his jokes and asked him about this day with what seemed like genuine interest. "You seem happy tonight," he said, reaching out to squeeze my hand. "I am happy," I said, and it wasn't a total lie. For the first time in months, I had a purpose, a plan, a reason to get up in the morning. "I was thinking," I continued, "maybe we should have my mum over for dinner this weekend. It's been a while since we've all spent time together." Something flashed in David's eyes. "That sounds great, honey. I'm sure Margaret would love that." Margaret, not your mum or mum, like he used to say, Margaret. As if they were close, as if they knew each other well, which of course they did. "Yes, I'll call her tomorrow." That night, as David slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and planned the next phase of my revenge. Phase 1 was information gathering, and that was complete. Phase 2 would be preparation, making sure I had everything I needed to destroy them both. But Phase 3, that would be the most important part. That would be making sure they both understood exactly what they had lost when they decided to underestimate Sarah Jackson. In the darkness, I smiled forth, first time in weeks. The call to my mother the next morning was a masterpiece of acting. "Mum," I said, letting my voice sound small and uncertain, "I was wondering if you'd like to come over for dinner Saturday night." "Oh, honey, that sounds lovely," she said, and I could practically hear satisfaction in her voice. Poor, pathetic Sarah, reaching out for the comfort of a family she didn't deserve. "Is everything okay? You sound a little down." "I'm fine," I said, injecting just the right amount of fake cheerfulness into my voice. "Maybe a little tired. David's been working so much lately, and I feel like I barely see him. Men work hard to provide for their families, dear. You should be grateful, not complaining." The casual cruelty in her tone was so familiar, I almost missed it. But this time, instead of making me feel small, it fanned the fire burning in my chest. "You're right, of course. I just miss him, you know." Well, a good wife finds ways to keep herself busy rather than bothering her husband with needs. "You're so right. I'll see you Saturday around 6 o'clock. Then, perfect. Should I bring Ganethan? Just you, Mum. That's all we need." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and marveled at how easy it was to play the role they expected. Thuic, grateful daughter, the needy, pathetic wife. I had been playing that role for so long, I had forgotten it was an act. But now that I was consciously acting, I could see exactly how I had been manipulated. Every criticism disguised as helpful. Every backhanded compliment designed to keep me grateful for attention I didn't deserve. Every time they had made me feel like I was Lakaito, be tolerated. The rage that filled me then was clean, cold, and purposeful. My next stop was an office supply store where I bought Asmol digital voice recorder, the kind college students used to record lectures. Then I went to an electronics store and bought a small wireless camera supposedly for home security. If David and my mother wanted to have secret conversations, I would make sure I had proof of every word. That afternoon, I did something else I hadn't done in years. I went shopping for myself, not for practical clothes that would help me blend in, not for modest conservative oats chosen to avoid attention. I bought a black dress that actually fit me figure instead of hiding it. I bought makeup that would bring out my eyes. Even bought a pair of heels that made me feel taller and more confident. The woman in the fitting room mirror looked like a stranger, like someone who might actually deserve good things in life. When I got home, I hid my purchases in the back of my closet and went back tobing the old Sarah, at least on the surface. Saturday came quickly. I spent the day cleaning the house and preparing dinner, just as I had done hundreds of times before. But this time, I also spent time setting up me equipment. The wireless camera I set in the living room, disguised as a decorative piece on the mantelpiece. The digital recorder I put in my pocket already turned on. David came home from work at 5:30, which gave us just enough time to get ready before my mother arrived. "You look nice," he said, when saw me in the kitchen checking on the roast. I was wearing one of my old outfits, simple pants and a plain sweater. Nothing that would indicate any change in my personality or circumstances. "Thanks," I said, smiling at him. As I always did, as if his approval was the most important thing in the world. My mother arrived at exactly 6, carrying a bottle of wine, and wearing the kind of outfit that cost more than I usually spent on clothes in a year. She hugged him and kissed my cheek, the picture of a loving mother. "Sarah dear, you looked hard. Are you getting enough sleep?" The first shot delivered with surgical precision, a criticism disguised as concern, designed to make me feel self-conscious and inadequate. "I'm fine, Mum. Just busy with Leo and work and everything else." "Well, you know what they say, a woman's work is never done." She laughed and handed the wine to David. "Hello, David. You're looking wonderful as always." The way she looked at my husband sent a shiver down my spine. There was something possessive in her gaze, something that suggested. But I smiled and thanked her for the wine and served dinner as if nothing was wrong. The conversation over dinner was torture. My mother and David kept exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking. They had inside jokes I wasn't a part of. They talked about people and events in ways that made it clear they had discussed these things in private. "Oh, David," Mimatha said at one point, "did you ever get that permit issue sorted out with the city?" My blood ran cold. David hadn't mentioned any permit issue to me, but he responded easily as if it were a topic they had discussed before. "Yes, finally got it sorted out. Thanks for asking." "What permit issue?" I asked innocently. "Just work stuff, honey, nothing to worry about." But my mother was nodding as if she knew exactly what permit issue he was talking about. After dinner, I excused myself to get dessert from the kitchen. While I was gone, I could hear them talking in low voices in the dining room. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was intimate, familiar. When I returned with the cake, they were sitting a little too far apart, as if they had been closer before I came in. "This looks delicious," dear David said, but his smile seemed forced. The rest of the night passed in a blur of small talk and fake smiles. My mother left around 9 with another hug and kiss that felt like acid on my skin. "Thanks for a lovely evening. Darling, we should do this more often." "Definitely," I agreed. Family is so important. After she left, David helped me with the dishes. "Your mother seemed to enjoy herself," he said. "She did. I'm glad you two get along so well. She's a good woman. Raised you well." The lies came so easily to him. The casual deception was stunning in its entirety. That night, I lay in bed listening to David's sleep and planning the next phase of my revenge. I now had evidence, recorded conversions that would make it clear they were having secret discussions about things they were hiding from me, video recordings of their body language and interactions. But I needed more. It needed proof of the financial theft. I needed documentation of their affair back. I was sure now that was what it was. Most importantly, I needed them to fully incriminate themselves, and I knew exactly how to make that happen. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The following Wednesday, David Allen said would be working late again. "Big deadline at the Martinez job," he said, kissing my forehead at breakfast. It might not be home until after midnight, but when I drove by the Martinez house at lunchtime, there were no work trucks there, no sign of construction activity. That night, after Leo was in bed, I did something that would have seemed impossible just a month ago. I got in my car and drove to the construction yard, where David stored his equipment. His truck wasn't there, and the lights were off, and there were no signs of activity. From there, I drove to my mother's house. David's truck was in her driveway. This time, I was prepared. He parked 2 blocks away and walked back, staying in the shadows. I had my digital work order in one pocket and my phone in the other, ready to take pictures if I needed to. The conversation I overheard that night was the final nail in their coffin. "When are you going to tell her?" My mother's voice was sharp with impatience. "After Christmas. I promised Leo I'd give him a good Christmas. You're too soft. She doesn't deserve consideration." "Look, Margaret, I know you're anxious to get this over with, but I have to think about my son. Your son will be better off without that pathetic woman dragging him down. Both of them will." There was a long pause. Then David's voice again, lower. "Sometimes I think about what our lives could have been like if I had just chosen you from the start instead of settling for her." My mother's laugh was low and pleased. "Better late than never, darling. Once you're free of her, we can finally be together like we were always meant to be, like they were always meant to be." The words hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about money or convenience. They had been in love all along. My husband and my mother. "Have you figured out how to get the rest off money?" my mother asked. "Most of it is already transferred to our account. She's so trusting she'll sign anything I put in front of her. The house will take more work, but I've been forging her signature on the refinancing documents. By the time I file for divorce, there will be nothing left for her to fight over." "What about Leo?" my mother asked. "I'll get custody." Who would give a child to a woman with a history of depression and mental instability? She has a history of that. David's laugh was cold. "She will by the time my lawyer finishes building the case." The pieces fell into place with a sickening clarity. The way David had been encouraging me to see a therapist for my anxiety. The way he had been documenting my emotional outbursts, moments where I had cried or gotten frustrated like any normal person. Had been building a case against me for months, maybe years, creating a paper trail that would paint me as an unfit mother. I recorded 20 more minutes of their conversation, documenting their plans to destroy my reputation, steal my assets, and take my son. When I snuck away from that house, I had enough evidence to bury them both, but I wasn't done yet. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to a divorce attorney in the next town over, someone David wouldn't know and who would have no connection to our local community. "I need to document spousal financial fraud and plan a divorce strategy," I told her, "and I need absolute confidentiality. I'm ready to proceed." The lawyer, a sharp woman named Jessica Miller, agreed to meet me that afternoon. The second call was to a private investigator I had been recommended, someone who specialized in adultery and crimes cases. The third call was to my bank, but NATO, Mr. Pura Peterson, to his supervisor, a woman named Susan Adams, who handled fraud cases. "I believe my husband has been forging my signature on financial documents," I said. "I need to document this, but I don't want him to know I'm investigating yet." Susan was professional and understanding. "We can definitely help you with that, Mrs. Jackson. When can you come in?" By Thursday afternoon, I had a paper trail documenting every single illegal thing David had done with our money. I had pictures of him at my mother's house, one he was supposed to be at work. I had recorded conversations that proved their affair and their plans to destroy him. I also had a court-ordered freeze on all our accounts, set to go into effect the moment I filed for divorce, but I wasn't ready to play my cards yet. I wanted them to dig their hole even deeper. On Friday evening, I cooked David's favorite dinner again. This time, I wore the new black dress I had bought along with the makeup that brought out my eyes. He noticed it immediately. "Wow, you look amazing. Tonight, what's the occasion?" Do we need an occasion to look nice for my husband? I asked, smiling at him in a way that would have been genuine a month ago. Over dinner, I brought up something that made him pale. I was thinking, I said casually, maybe we should plan a vacation for Christmas somewhere warm. Leo has never seen the ocean. That sounds expensive, David said cautiously. Oh, I don't think money will be an issue. I talked to my father's insurance company today, and they said there might be some additional benefits I didn't know about. Something about compounding interest on delayed payments. The lie came out of my mouth so smoothly I was surprised, but the effect on David was immediate and satisfying. He nearly choked on his wine. Really? How much money are we talking about? They're not sure yet. It could be another 50,000, maybe more. They're calling me next week with the final numbers. David's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, greed, calculation, and finally something that looked like panic. That's wonderful, honey. Truly wonderful. But I could see the gears turning in his head. If more insurance was coming, he would want to get his hands on it before he left me, which meant he would have to delay his plan, which meant I had more time to prepare my final blow. That night, after David fell asleep, I heard him get up around 2 o'clock in the morning. I listened through the crack in our bedroom door as he made a phone call from the kitchen. Margaret, yeah, it's me. We've got a problem. He crept to the top of the stairs, recording device in hand. She says there's more insurance money coming. Another $50,000. No, I don't think she suspects anything. She's too stupid to realize. We might have to wait it out longer than we planned. I know, but if we move too fast and we miss out on that money. His voice trailed off as he moved deeper into the kitchen. But I had hard now. They were going to delay their plan to destroy me until they could steal even more money that didn't exist. Perfect. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Not because of what David and my mother were doing to me. He no longer cared about their betrayal. The difficult part was pretending to be the same weak, grateful woman that I expected while I was preparing to destroy them both. Every morning I woke up and put on the mask of the old Sarah, meek, anxious, grateful for any crumb of attention or affection. I cooked David's favorite meals. I asked about his day with what seemed like genuine interest, and I made sure Leo never suspected anything was wrong. But underneath, I was a woman transformed. I spent my lunch hours meeting with lawyers and investigators. I documented every lie, every theft, every moment of betrayal. I built a case so airtight that no judge in the world would ever let David walk away with my money or my son. The private investigator, a former police detective named Michael Scott, was particularly helpful. In 30 years of doing this job, he told me during one of our meetings, I've never seen such thorough documentation. Your husband isn't just cheating and stealing. He's created a paper trail that proves criminal intent. What kind of charges are we talking about? I asked. Fraud, embezzlement, forgery. If Dar wants to take it to the extreme, he could be looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. The thought should have made me feel guilty. This was my son's father, the man I had loved for 12 years. Butyl, I felt, was a cold satisfaction. Meanwhile, David was getting more antsy every day. The imaginary insurance money I had mentioned was supposedly being processed by the company, and he kept asking me when I would hear back. These things take time, I would tell him, but he assured me it would be worth the wait. My mother was also growing impatient. She started calling more frequently, always asking about the insurance money, in that casual way that wasn't casual at all. Any news from the insurance company? dear? Not yet, Mum, but I'm hoping soon. She acted surprised, though I hadn't told her. Well, you know what they say, good things come to those who wait. If Onlish knew how true that was going to be. The moment I had been waiting for arrived on a Thursday afternoon in early December. David announced he would be working late again, but this time he made a mistake. The Martinez job is running behind, he said. I might have to work right through the weekend to catch up, but I had driven by the Martinez house that afternoon. It was completely finished. The family was already moved. That night, I followed him again, but instead of going to my mother's house, he drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place people went when they didn't want to be seen. My mother's car was already in the parking lot. It parked across the street and waited. Through the window of the room, I could see two figures moving. I couldn't make out the details, but I didn't need to. The private investigator had given me a camera with a telephoto lens, and I essayed it to document everything. David's truck in the motel parking lot, my mother's car next to it, the timestamp showing it was 8:47 p.m. on a Thursday when he was supposed to be at work. But the real proof came when they finally emerged from the room. They were so comfortable with each other, so casual. David had his arm around my mother's waist. She was laughing at something he had said, looking up at him with obvious affection. They looked like a couple, aerial couple who had been together for a long, long time. I took pictures of everything. Then I drove home and uploaded it to the encrypted folder the private investigator had set up for me. When David came home at midnight, I was waiting with a cup of tea and a concerned expression. Long night, I asked sympathetically. Exhausted, but we're making progress. That's good. I worry about you working so hard. He kissed the top of my head, and I had to fight not to flinch away from his touch. You're too good to me, Sarah. If only he knew. The next morning, I made the call I had been preparing for 4 weeks. Jessica, it's Sarah Jackson. I'm ready to file. Are you sure? Once we start this process, there's no going back. I'm sure I want to file today, and I want the account freeze to go into effect immediately. Consider it done. Can you be in my office at 2 p.m. this afternoon? I'll be there. Before I went to the lawyer's office, I did one last thing. I called the construction company David claimed to be working for and asked to speak to the foreman of the Martinez job. Martinez job. The man sounded confused. That job finished 2 weeks ago in mid-November. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood. My husband, David Jackson, said he was working there this week. David Jackson, we don't have any jobs going on this week. Slow season, you know. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. David didn't just work for a construction company. He owned a small one. But business had been slow, and instead of telling me the truth, he had been pretending to have a steady job while he stole money from me and planned his escape. At 2 p.m., I sat in Jessica Miller's office and signed the papers that would destroy my husband's life. The account freeze goes into wet turn to go out to effect at the close off business today. She explained he won't be able to access any of the joint accounts, or the money he transferred into his account with your mother and the house, since you can prove he forget your signature on the refinancing documents. Those transactions are null and void. The house remains in your name and Leo's custody. Jessica gave me a smile. Given the evidence of financial fraud and psychological manipulation you've documented, I'd say there's virtually no chance he gets custody, supervised visitation at best. With happens next, he'll be served with the papers tomorrow morning. I recommend you not be at home when that happens. Take Leo and go somewhere safe until we see how he reacts. And the criminal charges, that's up to you. The evidence is strong enough that the DA would definitely prosecute if you want to press charges. I thought about David's plan to paint me as mentally unstable to steal my son, about my mother's casual cruelty, and her glee at my pain, about the years of manipulation and lies. Press charges. I said all of them. That night I put Ononi's last performance as the old Sarah. I cooked dinner, I helped Leo with his sham work, and I acted as if everything was normal. David was distracted, probably worrying about the insurance money that would never come. After Leo to bed, I sat with David on the couch and watched television just as we had done thousands of times before. I love our life, I said, snuggling up to his side. Me too, honey, me too. The lie came so easily to him. Even now, with the papers ready to destroy him, he could look me in thigh and lie. But tomorrow he would learn what happened to people who underestimated Sarah Jackson. I woke up before dawn on Friday morning with a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt since I was a kid. Today was the day everything would change. I made breakfast for Leo and got him ready for school as usual. David had already left for his fake job, which meant he had probably gone to my mother's house to continue planning my destruction. At 8:30, I drove Leo to school and gave him an extra long hug. I love you so much, honey, I said. I love you too, Mum. Are you okay? You seem different lately, smart kid. Too smart for his own good sometimes. I'm fine, honey, better than fine. Everything's going to be okay. After dropping Leo off, I drove Vito a coffee shop across town and settled in to wait. Jessica had texted me, saying the server would deliver the papers between 9 and 10 a.m. at 9:47. My phone rang. Mrs. Jackson, this is Officer Williams with the Clearwater Creek Police Department. Your husband asked us to call you. My heart hammered in my chest, but I kept my voice calm. Is everything okay, officer? Well, ma'am, your husband was just served some legal papers this morning, and he's quite upset. He's making some serious accusations about you, and wanted to get your side of the story. What kind of accusations? I asked. He's saying you've been acting erratically, that you've been lying about insurance money and trying to manipulate him. He's concerned about your mental state. I almost laughed. Even now, even as his world was falling apart around him, David was trying to play the concerned husband card. Officer Williams, I think you should know that those papers are divorce documents I filed because I discovered my husband has been stealing from our joint accounts and having an affair with my mother. There was a long pause. Your mother, yes. I have extensive documentation of both the financial fraud and the affair. I'd be happy to share it with you if necessary. Ma, single quotes, would you be willing to come down to the station to give a statement? Of course, I'll be right there. The police station was a 10-minute drive from the coffee shop. When I walked in, I could hear David's voice echoing from somewhere in the back of the building. She's been acting like a crazy person for weeks. All of this is in her head. She's making things up. Officer Williams met me at the front desk. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. Mrs. Jackson, I'm Officer Williams. Thanks for coming in. He led him to a small interview room where I spent the next hour laying out my entire case. The financial records showing David's theft, the photos of him at the motel with my mother, the recordings of their conversations plotting my destruction. Yeah, Officer Williams' expression grew more serious with every piece of evidence I presented. Mrs. Jackson. This is extensive. You've been documenting this for weeks. I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed to protect myself and my son. What you've shown me here, this constitutes criminal fraud, possibly embezzlement. Are you prepared to press charges? Yes, I am. And your mother, she's clearly involved in this as well. I want charges pressed against her, too. Officer Williams nodded. We'll need to interview them both separately. Your husband is still here, but we'll need to bring your mother in. She's probably at her house or at the motel where they've been meeting. We'll find her. In the meantime, is there somewhere safe you can stay? Mr. Jackson as well, he's not taking this well. I thought about Leo, who would be getting out of school in a few hours. About the house that was legally mine, but which might not feel safe anymore. I'll find something. Officer Williams handed me his card. Call me if you need anything. And Mrs. Jackson, what you did here documenting so thoroughly, that took real courage. It was the first time in my adult life anyone had ever called me brave. I left the police station and drove to Leo's school. It was only noon, but I needed to see him, to hold him, and remind myself why I was doing all this. I found him at lunch and asked his teacher if I could speak to him privately. Leo, honey, I need to tell you something important. His face grew serious immediately. It's okay. Dad's dad is going through some difficult things right now, and we're probably going to have to stay somewhere else for a few days while the adults sort things out. Are you and Dad getting a divorce? The question hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had been so focused on my revenge that I had almost forgotten this would hurt Leo too. Yes, honey, we're getting a divorce. Leo was quiet for a long moment, picking at his sandwich. Is it because of Grandma Margaret? I almost fell off the cafeteria bench. What do you mean? I heard them talking on the phone sometimes when Dad thought I was sleeping. They sounded like they liked each other a lot more than familiars supposed to like each other. My 11-year-old son had figured out what I had been too blind to see for months. Leo, I need you to know that none of this is your fault. Okay, sometimes adults make bad decisions, but that doesn't mean they don't love their kids. Do you still love Dad? It was the hardest question I had ever been asked. A month ago, the answer would have been an automatic yes. Well, I love the man he thought your dad was, I said carefully. But it turns out he wasn't who I thought he was. Are we going to be okay? He wrapped my arms around my son and hugged him tight. We're going to be better than okay, honey. I promise you. That afternoon, we checked into a hotel across town. Nothing fancy, just a clean, safe place where Leo and I could figure out our next steps. My phone had been ringing with calls and texts all day. Some from David, ranging from angrito, pleading to threatening, some from my mother. Most were variations of, how could you do this to your own family? But the call that mattered came at 6 p.m. as Leo and I were eating pizza and watching cartoons. Mrs. Jackson, this is Officer Williams. We've arrested your husband and your mother. They're being charged with fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. What happens now? They'll probably be released on bail tomorrow, but they'll have restraining orders against them. They won't be allowed to contact you or Leo directly. And the money they stole? The DA and his confidant will be able to recover most of it. The account they transferred it to has been frozen, and we're working on tracking the cash withdrawals. After I hung up, I sat on the hotel bed and tried to process everything that had happened. This morning, I was married to a man I thought I loved, living in a house he thought was safe, part of a family I thought was real. Tonight, I was divorced. My husband and my mother were in jail, and my entire life had been revealed as an elaborate lie. But for the first time in years, I felt free. Leo looked up from his cartoons. "Mum, are you crying?" I touched my face and realized I was. But they weren't tears of sadness. "I'm okay, honey. They're epi tears." Sometimes adults cry when they're happy, when they're finally free from something that was hurting them. Leo considered this seriously. Are we free now? I looked at my son, my brave, smart, wonderful son, who deserved so much more than the broken family he had been trying to hold together. Yes, Leo, we're free. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe if this story has stoked your heart. Your support drives us to keep sharing these experiences. The trial took place 6 months later in the spring. By then, Leo and I had settled into our new life in a small apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't as big as our old house, but it was ours in a way that house never had been. I had gone back to working full-time at the library, and Mrs. Dav Davis had been incredibly supportive through Viva. The whole town had heard about the scandal, of course. In a place like Clearwater Creek, news like that spreads faster than a wildfire. But instead of the judgment and pity I expected, most people were surprising Gliputa. Other women came forward with their own stories of David's inappropriate behavior over the years. Men in the construction industry revealed that David's business had been failing for months before he started stealing from me. Even more surprisingly, several people mentioned that they had never liked my mother, that they had always thought there was something cold about her. She always acted like she was better than everyone else. Mrs. Davis told me one afternoon, like she was doing the world a favor by existing. The trial itself was almost anticlimactic. The evidence was so overwhelming that both David and my mother ended up taking plea deals rather than face a jury. David received 3 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. My mother received 18 months for conspiracy and her role in the plan. I was in the courtroom when they were sentenced. David looked at me with a mixture of anger and what might have been regret. My mother looked at me as if I were a stranger she had never seen before. Neither of them ever apologized. The financial recovery took longer, but Jessica Miller proved to be worth every dollar I paid her. We recovered almost all of the stolen money, plus damages. The house sold quickly, and with the insurance money that David hadn't been able to steal. Leo and I found ourselves more financially secure than we had ever been. But the money wasn't the real victory. The real victory was in who I had become in the process of fighting for it. The day after the sentencing, I did something I had never done before. He went to a hair salon and asked for a complete makeover. "I want to look like someone who can't be messed with," I told stylist, a young woman named Crystal with purple streaks in her hair and kind eyes. When she was finished, the woman looking back at me from the mirror was confident, strong, and beautiful, not because she was trying to please any O'Neills, but because she finally knew her own worth. That night, Leo and I went out to dinner to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just the downtown diner. But it felt like the most important meal of my life. "Mum, you look different." Leo sighed as he ate his cheeseburger. "Different how?" "Happier, like you're not afraid of anything anymore." "I'm not afraid," I realized as I said it. For the first time in my life, I'm not afraid. "Are you glad we don't live with Dad anymore?" It was a difficult question, but I answered honestly. "I'm sad that your father made the choices he did, but I'm glad we got away from him before those choices hurt us even more." "Are you going to get married again someday?" I laughed. "I don't know, honey. Maybe, but if I do, It will be Tasamian, who thinks I'm amazing just the way I am. You are amazing, Mum. You're the strongest person I know. Coming from my 11-year-old son, those words mean more than any compliment I had ever received. 7 months after the trial, I received a letter in the mail. Their turn address, her address, was the women's correctional facility where my mother was serving her sentence. I almost threw it away, unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. Sarah, it read, I've had a lot of time to think about what happened, and I realize now that I was wrong. Not just about the money, but about everything. I was wrong about you. You were never weak or pathetic or any of the other things I said. You were just trusting, and I took advantage of that trust. I was also wrong about David. He was never good now for you, and I should have seen that from the beginning instead of encouraging him to hurt you. But most of all, I was wrong about myself. I thought I deserved better than the life I had, and I convinced myself that taking what you had would make me happy. It didn't. It just made me a person I don't recognize. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But you two know that you were right to stand up for yourself. You were right to protect yourself, and Leo, you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for, stronger than I ever was. I'm sorry, Sarah, for everything. Margaret. I read the letter, then folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. Not because I was ready to forgive her. I wasn't sure if I ever would be, but because it was proof that sometimes even the worst people can recognize the truth when they're forced to face it. A year after the trial, Leo and I moved into a new house. Nothing too big or fancy, just a comfortable place with a garden where I could grow the vegetables I had always wanted to try. I had been promoted to head librarian after Mrs. Davis retired, and I loved the job more than ever. I had also started teaching adult literacy classes at night, helping people learn to read who had never had the chance. One of my students was a woman named Maria, who had left an abusive marriage with 2 young kids. She reminded me of myself. Before I had learned to stand up for myself. I don't know how to be strong, she told me one afternoon after class. You're already strong, I said. You left. That was the hardest part. Everything else is just learning new skills. Did you always know how to stand up for yourself? I laughed. Maria, a year ago, I would have you apologized for breathing too loud. Strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build one decision at a time. My first decision was deciding that I was worth fighting for. Everything else came from that. 5 years have passed since that November day. My world shattered. Leo is 16 now, tall and confident, and nothing like the broken woman I used to be. He has never asked to visit his father in prison, and I have never pressed the issue. David was released after serving 2.5 years of his sentence. He moved to another state and has never tried to contact us. I've heard through mutual friends that he's working in construction again, living in a small apartment, trying to rebuild his life. My mother was released after 14 months. She moved to Seville to live with her sister, and we haven't spoken since she left. I'm not sure we ever will, and I have made peace with that. People sometimes ask me if I regret what Ty did, if I think the revenge was worth destroying my marriage and sending Mimitha to prison. The answer is always the same. I didn't destroy my marriage. David did the moment he decided to steal from me and betray me with my own mother. I didn't send my mother to prison. She did by choosing to participate in a criminal conspiracy against her own daughter. All I did was refuse to be a victim. The woman I am now would be unrecognizable to the woman I was 5 years ago. I run the library with confidence and authority. I own my own home. I've traveled to places I never thought I would see. Paris, London, Rome, sometimes alone, sometimes with Leo, always with the knowledge that I can take care of myself wherever I go. I've been on a few dates, but I'm in no rush to get married again. I like my independence too much, and I have learned be very careful about who I let into my life. Any man who wants to be with Mahars, to earn that privilege. Most importantly, I've raised a son who respects women and who understands that true strength comes from protecting people who can't protect themselves, not from taking advantage of them. Leo is off to college next year, and for the first time in my life, I'm excited to be on my own. Not because I don't love Maisen, but because I finally know who I am when there's no one else around. I'm a woman who stood up for herself when the world tried to break her. I'm a woman who found out she was never as weak as Sevione told her she was. I'm a woman who learned that the best revenge is not just surviving, but thriving. Sometimes late, at night when I can't sleep, I think about that moment behind my mother's kitchen window. The moment I heard the two people I loved most plan me destruction. It was the worst moment of my life. It was also the moment I started to become the woman I was always meant to be. They thought they were destroying me. Instead, they set me free. And that is a gift I will be grateful for the rest of my life.